The Rip City Drive.
I read social media and I'm often upset by the judgments people have made about him when they don't necessarily understand the situation. There have been cases just this last year where you look back and they had a good win under their belt, and the players who provided that win, all of a sudden they're not playing the next game because they've come up with a phantom injury or whatever, but they're sitting out because, frankly, the mission wasn't to win, and it's not going to be next year either. If I were Chauncey Billups, I'd have to be seriously considering not coming back next year. Just work out some sort of settlement on the final year of his deal and just walking away, because I don't think he'll be on they're not going to give him the fifth year, and he's going to be stuck after 4 years with a 20-something% win record on his belt and trying to find a job. And that's going to be real difficult. He could go back to TV, I guess, or take an assistant job somewhere, but it's going to be really difficult. I wouldn't want to take one more year of the losing. I think it's just too frustrating.
But won't teams, I mean, I understand the record is what it is, but won't teams look at the situation, or they probably already know what the circumstances are? It's like nobody was going to win or have a high winning percentage with the situation they had going on here in Portland. How could you? That wasn't the objective. So I don't understand how you can look at the record and say, well, that's the coach that he is.
Well, I don't think anybody would. But at the same time, how do you think your fans react if you hire a head coach who's won 28% of his games over his first 4 years? You got to explain that. That's not always easy. I think he's got to rehab that a little bit by going somewhere and being a lead assistant, or just go back to TV for a while until people forget, because that's what coaches do. They go back on TV, and pretty soon somebody calls them up for another job.
That's true. Well, if you can make Monty Williams the highest paid coach in the NBA, you can hire Chauncey Billups with a 20% win record.
Well, yeah. But
I'd rather explain Chauncey than I would making Monty the highest paid coach in the NBA.
But Monty was in the NBA Finals. That's all you have to say. You know, he got his team to the NBA Finals. That justifies whatever happens.
That's true.
I
guess.
And that's unfortunate.
But it ended bad. It ended badly in Phoenix during his time there.
I think it's going to end bad wherever he goes.
Well, I like Chauncey. I really do. I respect him. I think the reason why the majority of fans dislike him is because of the investigation, the rape investigation that went on many years ago that they think he was involved in, even though the prosecuting attorney said he had nothing to do with it. And then, most importantly, because of who hired him. I think that's why people hold it against Billups.
Well, that would be really dumb, because he didn't hire him in a vacuum. Look, if he did, he'd have been gone 3 years ago, okay? Obviously, the owner, the current GM,
well, I understand what you're saying.
Everybody signed off on that hire.
I agree. But the fans didn't like Olshey. He brought him in, and so therefore, you know that's the truth.
Is it? I don't know. I just think they look at the wins and losses and think he can't coach.
Let's go back to the beginning. Why were people so irritated at the hiring of Chauncey from day one, from the opening press conference?
Well, a lot of them wanted a female coach. That was one reason.
Okay, what do you think might be another reason why people might be frustrated with the hire of Chauncey, aside from that one?
Okay, aside from that one, that he'd never had any experience as a head coach.
Okay, never
before.
mind. I'm not going to get into this with you.
Okay, it's all because of Neil hiring him. Is that, or is it the rape thing?
I think it's both. I think Neil and the allegations in combination is why people have hatred for Chauncey. I do believe that.
Wow.
And I'm not the only one. Burkhart, you want to chime in on this? Why do people have such irritation with Chauncey from day one?
I will say, being close friends with many Blazer fan, the allegations have not moved off from him. That's a shadow that looms over him, very large. Secondarily, Dwight, you may not think so, but you would be surprised how many people get irritated because the first thing they mention is we need to move off of Billups because Billups is an Olshey guy.
That's right.
All the time I hear it.
Well,
that's
Joe
because
Cronin was an Olshey guy.
It's not the same.
Oh, it isn't?
No, it's not. Not with Billups and the hire. Look, the fans hated Olshey, whether they're right or wrong. They hated him. And so because he hired him, because he hired a guy with allegations and a bit of a dark cloud hanging over the top of him, they hold that against Billups.
They wouldn't be holding it against him if he'd won.
Well, winning has a way of solving all sorts of issues.
That's what I mean.
In this town, they might. They might in this town. They just might. But winning obviously solves a lot of different things. But no, I don't. I was okay with the hire. I like Billups, and I hope he has success in the future. I like the hire. I think it makes sense. But the situation now, I understand where Cronin's coming from. If I take over a job, every GM likes to hire their own coach. That happens everywhere. So Cronin will get a chance.
Never done that.
No, Cronin hasn't had his chance. So
well, he hasn't. What do you mean he has never had a chance? Could have fired Chauncey after the first year. He's only making $2 million a year.
I understand that. He's going to have an opportunity to hire his own coach. Every GM gets that chance to hire their own coach.
Right. Well, he has that chance, and he hasn't. The fact that he's stuck with him, what does that tell you?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's an ownership thing. What does it tell you?
That he must be happy with the way it's going. Look, there aren't many guys you're going to hire who come in here willing to lose 65 games or whatever you're going to have to lose, 70 games maybe.
He has no reason to be upset with Billups based on the way he's handled himself.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
If that's all you want to do is lose games, you're fine.
Well, I'm just saying that every GM at some point is going to want to hire their own guy. Are they not?
Of course, Chad. I'm just saying he's had the. What do you mean he hasn't had the opportunity?
Do you notice how anytime Olshey gets brought up, he gets cranky?
No, but you.
Anytime we bring up Olshey, the Godfather gets cranky.
You're being silly.
I'm being silly?
Yeah.
Because I think a GM has the right to hire his own coach? He didn't hire Billups.
Chad, listen to what I'm saying. See if you can comprehend this, okay?
Oh, yeah, I'll try and comprehend the greatness of the Godfather. Pour it on right now, Big Daddy.
Okay, I'll be happy.
Yeah, pour it on.
He's the general
genius.
He's the general manager of the team.
Yes. Thank you. I got that part.
You got that part.
I do, yes.
He's allowed to fire the coach when he wants to fire him and bring somebody else in.
Is he allowed to fire a coach whenever he wants? Or does he have to get clearance from the owner to do that?
Oh, is that what we're saying? The owner's running that?
I'm telling you, I don't know.
Well, then why blame Olshey if the owner is still wanting this guy to be the coach?
I'm not blaming Olshey. I'm telling you what the fans think. I was telling you the fans look at Olshey.
Why are the fans blaming him if Joe
Because Olshey was a prick. That's why the fans don't like him. Whether right or wrong, he was an a-hole.
But that's fine.
I'm just telling you that the fans' perception of Olshey is that he's not a nice guy.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm just saying, everybody's had the opportunity. The idea that he has to wait for the contract to run out to fire the guy is silly. He could have fired him at any point. The fans have been screaming for it for 2 years.
What if the ownership did not want Billups gone?
Well, then then blame the ownership. They're the ones that are sticking with the guy.
I'm telling you, I don't know who's responsible for that decision of why Billups is still here. It could be Cronin. It could be ownership. I don't know. Do you?
No, but I say if you didn't want him here, he would be easy to dispose of with the amount of money he's making. That's no big deal.
Well, is it the money? Do you think that maybe they're just holding on to him because they didn't want to pay out Billups and hire a new coach at the same time? Isn't that possible?
It's possible, but you guys are only making a couple of million a year.
Well,
you spend that much on these guys you release all the time.
Okay, so what do you think the reason is that Billups is still here? And why do you think he won't be picked up after next year?
Because they figured they couldn't hire anybody who would take the job, especially for $2 million a year, and then have the assignment of losing games. That's why he's still here. They got somebody willing to tank, so far at least, and they're only having to pay him a couple million to do it.
Well, there's no
Who's
doubt about that.
Who's going to take this job?
Well, that's why you and I have been on board with keeping Billups, because if you let him go now, going out and finding the coach that you want, you may not find someone that wants the job, right?
It's going to be real hard to find somebody who wants the job, even after this next season.
Well,
whenever you let him go, it's going to be hard.
Well, that depends on how the draft goes next year. If things go well in the draft, you might find someone willing and ready to jump on and get the coach.
It's like the process. Just keep waiting till the next draft. That's what we're doing. We're waiting for the next draft.
Well, next year's draft is different than this year's draft.
Yeah, but you got to get up in the top 4 or 5.
Well, I don't think that's going to be a problem. They'll be in the top 4 or 5 in next year's draft.
You got to go through the lottery, though.
I understand that, but I'm saying they're going to be in the best position to get into the top 4 or 5 of that draft, aren't they?
We'll see.
Well, don't you think that's their plan?
Yeah, it's their plan. I don't know that's their plan.
All right.
They've had a lot of plans.
Well, I'm sure
I don't know
glad
how
you were
well
here
any
to
of the
share your
plans
knowledge.
have gone. And it doesn't look like their plans are doing too well so far.
Okay. Don't say anything bad about Olshey. Dwight will get upset and then become
That's
very
right.
difficult to talk to.
I will, because I know what went on in that
I
battle.
know, because you're all-knowing.